Hell of a Summer is a 2025 Canadian-American film written and directed by Finn Wolfhard and Billy Bryk, and stars both these dudes alongside Fred Hechinger. Also, I'm aware that apparently this movie came out in 2023, or maybe that's when it hit the festival circuit, I'm not sure. But I just saw it in the theater, so I'm calling it a 2025 movie. And anyways, the plot follows a group of summer camp counselors being hunted down by an unknown killer. Pretty simple throwback premise, right? Let's see how it goes. So this is the feature-length debut of both Finn Wolfhard and Billy Bryk in both writing and directing. I mean, so these guys, they bit off a lot, for their first project, big project, I should say. And though they're both, pretty experienced actors, it shows more often, than I would have liked. Not so much in their acting, but in the writing and directing and all that stuff. So the lead here is played by Fred Hechinger. And I've never seen this guy before, but he's been in stuff like the Fear Street series, which oddly enough, I haven't seen, even though I want to. Just haven't gotten around to it. He's also been in Gladiator 2, Kraven the Hunter. But yeah, he's interesting in this role. And I think he's really going to divide people with his performance. And I say that because for me, at least, he's very up and down. He is responsible for setting up a lot of jokes, and way too many of them fall flat. Some of them are really funny, but again, the ratio of jokes that hit and jokes that fall, and it's not all just his fault. In this entire movie, it's not a good ratio, and his personal ratio is not that great either, though he does have some of the funnier parts in the movie. He is kind of good, though, in the way that he's, pretty believable, as the kind of awkward, loner. And I say that as an awkward loner, so I know when I see one. But he's also just way too in your face at times, as well-meaning as he is. And I get that it's kind of the point, and it does make sense, but I still think his character will impact your level of enjoyment. But he's also kind of the best character here because, there's actually some character development going on with him. And he has far more personality than the rest of the characters pretty much put together, which was a major issue for me. I didn't truly like a single character here, not one. And I get that most of them are supposed to be unlikable. I just think that most of them are supposed to be cliche, too. Maybe not. The first thing I noticed that kind of bothered me was in the very first scene, and it was the writing. It was completely the writing. I get that these two dudes are young and still not that experienced. And I like that they're out there, creating and doing what they love, but something just always kind of felt off to me. And I can't exactly explain it, just off. So this is very much a horror comedy with definite nods to, 80s slashers, especially Friday the 13th, with a campground setting, and also Scream. Very, very heavy dose of Scream. And I got a few chuckles, I mentioned the comedy. I got a few chuckles here and there, but they were few and far between. And for every joke that lands, and I thought was pretty good, there's at least one or two that don't. And again, the writing is just lacking, and it's not for lack of effort necessarily. I don't believe that. I don't want to say weak, but maybe subpar is the right word. The slasher elements were completely underwhelming. So if you're a fan of slashers, I don't see this doing anything for you. There's a few decent gore parts, but there's also no real suspense. The story is incredibly generic and borrows way too heavily from Scream, while at the same time doing nothing interesting with it. The end reveal, I'm going to use that word again, completely uninteresting. And then, the ending gave me this weird vibe like the movie takes itself far too serious, and it was just kind of sad. So yeah, I completely hated this movie. There isn't one thing here that I liked necessarily. The cinematography was maybe more adventurous than your average slasher, but that's still not enough for me to really care. And my last thought was that I can't help but feel like maybe Neon released this pretty much solely because of Finn Wolfhard's involvement, because of his fame from Stranger Things. And I couldn't, help but think, surely there were far better projects out there that deserved funding so much more than this movie. There's no way you can tell me that Neon released this simply because they thought it was good. again, it's a fairly good-looking film, but aside from that, it just has a very amateur feel to it, which would be fine. Don't get me wrong if this was an amateur film, but it isn't. I mean, it's a low-budget film. It's like what, $3 million or something like that. It does take some serious skill, I think, to stretch a small budget like that. But so I'm giving Hell of a Summer a 4 out of 10. Probably the lowest score I've given a film yet in my like year plus of reviewing stuff. This was kind of a waste of time for me, I'm not gonna lie, and I can't believe that this didn't come out in January or maybe February. For me, this is on the level of Founders Day from last year. Absolutely not recommended. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex.